Hello and welcome back, everyone. Double Happy Wednesday on a Tuesday. Today we are going to be going over Tinto Talks number 61 and 62, which is the reason why it is a double Happy Wednesday, because of course we've taken the happy from one week and brought it to the next, and I know what you might be thinking, why not just wait till tomorrow? Why not just make it a triple Happy Wednesday? Isn't that much easier? And it would be, but we are not handsome enough to take the happy from one week and send it to the next week, and so we have to content ourselves to doing a double Happy Wednesday. So that's what we will be doing. We will be going over Tinto Talks number 61 and 62 for Project Caesar. And I know what you might be thinking now. Project Caesar, don't you mean EU5? They announced this last Thursday. What are you talking about? It was following the Happy Wednesday that the EU5 that was promised appeared. And I want you to ask yourselves, do you think a giant company like Paradox Interactive would be doing a whole bunch of press releases regarding a Europa Universalis 5 and do an announcement video where they rented out a castle and, you know, brought a bunch of people in, did this type of thing? You really think that Paradox Interactive would do this if it wasn't a ruse? So now the game we thought was secret, we thought was EU5, now we're just left in confusion because it's obviously a secret again. And so we are going to be talking about the really entirely top secret thing, which now that they've announced, they've turned it back into a secret because we knew it was the EU5 and now we don't. So let's continue. This week we will examine the mechanics of the Protestant religions and the final situation involving all Western Christian confessions, the war of religion. First is first, it is. We differentiate between the three main Protestant religions: Lutheranism, Calvinism, and Anglicanism. All the different branches of Protestantism, more or less, strictly covered. I have some feelings about the phrase more or less, but okay, strictly covered under these wide denominations, are later represented through church aspects, a mechanism which we'll describe now. The underlying system here is for every player to be able to customize their own Protestant church. And when we played with this a little bit, when we had early access as Milan, we were able to grab some advantages that we really liked, although I don't remember which ones we went for. You can customize it. As an example, the early Anglican church funded by Henry VIII was very different from the Anglican church that developed in the times of James I. And the further division that then happened with the Puritans, we aim to portray dynamically these theological aspects with church aspects. Therefore, let's take a look at a Lutheran country first. I think is that going to be Denmark or down here? I'm using some of this save as last week's Tinto Talk. The Reformation was born in Perugia, and after a couple of years, it has already spread to a number of countries, of which Denmark is the biggest. So we do see Denmark up here. Here is the overview of the Lutheranism and its religious panel. We see the Lutheran religion is a part of Christianity. That we have religious group, clergy estate satisfaction equilibrium plus 5%. Now, the clergy estate satisfaction is a pretty nice modifier to have because, if I recall correctly, it increases research speed. We have monthly religious influence, and we have tax efficiency plus 5%. Tax efficiency being powerful because it is a free money modifier. It creates money out of nothing. And we do see 11 countries following the Lutheran faith, and the one with the biggest population is quite clearly Denmark. Not as many numbers, but more pops, because those are bigger numbers, right? Yeah, there's a K there. We come here into society. We have primary religion, Lutheranism, and liturgical language, Latin. This is a question that came up on one of my videos recently, and my understanding was you kept Latin as the liturgical language even as you deviated. It is important to be in the Latin liturgical language because then you get the Western tech speed, and so that is going to be important, and you do get to remain in Latin. So that's quite nice. And we have some religious accents, dissolve monasteries, deport heretics, and grant ruler a divorce. Similar to Catholicism and other religions, it also uses religious influence as currency. It is a value of the ability that a country has to interact with the influence and matters of its primary religion. Depending on the religion, the uses it will be different, as well as the ways for which a country to acquire it. Interesting. The currency is used to add or change religious aspects, which is what we noticed here. Hopefully they show us a little bit of a list to your church, and it also allows us to perform religious actions. Of course, we currently can't perform any, as we don't fulfill any of the triggers. Let's take a look now at religious aspects which define the Protestant church. And we can choose from a list of a bunch of different ones. There are plenty of aspects, and these can either be shared between the different Protestant religions or be unique to them. This is the list of all, okay. Here we have ones that are available to Lutheran churches. And so we see peasant estate satisfaction, really quite strong. I think that this modifier is incredibly strong because as a proportion of your pop, generally speaking, although in our Milan game we depeasanted several locations and made it all burghers, there are still laborers, which are part of the peasant estate. And the peasant satisfaction equilibrium, in a lot of cases, is going to be a very, very large percentage of the population in your location, so it really informs the location satisfaction, which drives a little bit in control and some other things, if I recall correctly, in terms of positive modifiers. I think there's 3 or removing negative modifiers, and so this will give you I think as modifier peasant estate satisfaction is one of the stronger ones. We see pop conversion speed plus 20%. That's kind of okay. Monthly progress to innovative, it can be a little bit hard to get your progress towards innovative above plus 01, which is kind of the most important thing, so that you do not trend backwards, and so this looks like a fairly solid aspect. We have appointment of the bishops with clergy power plus 50%. We noticed that the clergy had a little bit of a difficult time getting a bunch of power anyways, and so maybe this isn't so bad. And also, crown power seemed kind of weak, but it's been recently buffed in the build that they're working on right now, in that it informs your ability to get money through trade. We have distance cost capital minus 5%, strong modifier, monthly progress towards traditionalist, not really what we're looking for. We have asceticism, we have crown power minus 10%, not exactly what we want. Expected cost of court, I think expected cost of court overall, or minus expected cost of court, is overall kind of a weak modifier, and we get monthly progress towards spiritualist, but maybe I wasn't paying that close attention to it. Overall it seems kind of weak. And then we see bread and wine, our favorite, food out production plus 10%, wine output plus 10%. Nice. And then we see clerical poverty, clergy estate satisfaction volatility, minus 1%. I'm not entirely sure if we like volatility or we dislike volatility. I think you like volatility. That's the speed at which you move towards your equilibrium, because I think in general you'll have a high amount and then you'll get events that kick it down, and then moving back up to the high amount I think will just generally be preferred. We get crown as the head of faith. I don't know why you would worship crown in particular. It's just a hat, but okay. We get crown power at plus 10%, strong. Monthly control plus 0.1. Not exactly a strong modifier. Max control is pretty strong. This will increase the rate at which you trend towards it. I think base is 0.5. So, I mean, it's certainly not a bad modifier. Monthly progress towards centralization. There's a ton of things that give progress towards centralization. Not really a critical thing to get. We get a freedom to preach, freedom of speech. Clergy estate satisfaction equilibrium, minus 5%. They don't like that. That freedom, that speech, or preach, don't like it. We get tolerance of heretical beliefs, plus 2, which I think that tolerance of heretical beliefs, when you have like half your pops Catholic and half of them Lutheran, is generally going to be a really strong modifier. In the context where you are switching to Lutheran, I think that this is generally going to be quite strong, despite clergy estate satisfaction kind of being a strong modifier. Monthly progress towards individualism. I think individualism's kind of a little bit of a mixed bag regarding which one's better, but I can't remember the modifiers off the top of my head. We have individual creeds, pop assimilation speed, plus 10%. That's kind of okay. Monthly rebel growth, minus 0.1. Interesting. In general, if you have the same religion and culture, or accepted culture, or this type of thing, rebels are just really hard to have, but obviously if you're expanding a lot, like someone with a car as loud as that might do, then you might have a bit of difficulties, and monthly rebel growth minus might be helpful. It was helpful in our Mali game, and when we moved off of having it, we started having a few rebellions, but nothing that was existential. It's just annoying because it would ruin our prosperity, and we would lose out on development growth as a consequence. We see justified conflicts, my favorite favorite. Antagonism impact, minus 10%. Currently, antagonism, they really care quite a lot if you go for someone of the same faith or culture. War score cost, minus 5%. Monthly progress towards belligerent. We saw a lot of progression towards conciliatory, which is the reverse of this being... we tended to trend toward conciliatory. I don't really know which one I think is better. I think conciliatory is probably better, but maybe I'm just a bit of a passive player. I'm probably just passive player. We see monasticism, max literacy for clergy, plus 5%, which I don't think is that strong, because I think the clergy starts to approach 100, at which point it doesn't do anything. Monastery is allowed. Yes, the monastery, I think, is kind of an okay building, but it gives the clergy more buildings to build. I don't know what happens when an estate doesn't have any buildings to build. Well, I suppose they could always build their inferior buildings. When they don't have buildings to build and they have money. No, they just always spam their inferior buildings, I guess. And so if that's the case, monasteries might not be worth building yourself, but they're not, like, actively bad, if I recall correctly. And so giving your estate a out to something that they would want to build, that they could build, that isn't one of their actively bad estate buildings, is probably something that is maybe reasonable. We see parish registers. Possible clerics plus 10, and tax efficiency plus 5%. I wonder in what types of locations this is. If this is all locations, in which case this is kind of a good modifier. The number of clerics informs the power of your liturgical language overall, if I recall correctly, or the number of clerics that are of your liturgical language. I think it's something like this, and so plus clerics in every location doesn't seem that bad. It's certainly giving more power to that estate as well, because estates split power based on the pops that are in locations. What happens is they split weighted power amongst all the pops, and then they multiply their power by whatever power modifiers you have, but the baseline split before modifiers is based on population. So by adding clerics, you give them more power. If you have a parliament that consists of only nobility and clerics, which we had in our Korea game, then in that case, you would be... it's nice to give them more power because you can do more stuff in Parliament if you have stronger estates. We see pietism, where we have max literacy 5%. This is what we're talking about. Max literacy on clergy, not that good. Max literacy overall, fantastic. Monthly progress towards innovative, monthly progress towards communalism. This would be... I would be salivating at the mouth over this one. We see Sole Fide, peasant to state satisfaction equilibrium. As we have mentioned earlier, we like peasant to state satisfaction either the most or the second most. We see pop, join rebels threshold, minus 3%. We see monthly progress towards free subjects, plus 0.1. There's a lot of good sources of monthly progress towards free subjects, so that's kind of, it's a good thing, but I think it's kind of a push. Free subjects give you a lot of pop promotion speed, which I think is overall a really strong modifier. We get here, Solos Tura, max literacy, we love it, and progress towards individualism, fair enough, or fine enough. We get a Soli Deo Gloria, which is going to give us artist monthly start chance and skill of new artists. Honestly, we probably didn't pay as close attention to the artists to really be able to tell stuff too well, but I'm not sure how strong they are. Too low of sample size to really know how good this is. Monthly progress towards plutocracy is nice to have. We see translated Bibles, estate satisfaction equilibrium 1%. I think I might prefer peasant estate satisfaction equilibrium plus 2.5% to just 1% overall. But 10% literacy, that's banging, and 10 progress towards innovative, very, very nice. I think this is probably the strongest one we've seen so far, but I'm not necessarily the best at evaluating this with only 200 hours. We see usury, or 227. We see usury allowed, where bank interest, minus 1%, income from minting, plus 5%. Overall, I didn't feel that minting was all that strong, but maybe I just didn't create the right conditions for it. It felt like it just didn't give that much income. Monthly progress towards capital economy, plus 0.1. Which that's probably pretty good. And here we have war sermons, our favorite. Oh, it's not our favorite. We're just talking. We're yapping. We have possible clerics plus 10, army morale recovery speed plus 2%. I don't know how strong that 2% is. If that's a flat modifier where it's let's say maybe you recover 2% of your morale a tick or whatever, or a day, and then in which case this is like doubling it, or if it's modifying like a 100% value. I don't know if it's adding flat recovery speed or if it's modifying a flat number. I assume it's adding flat, but I don't know how strong that is. Monthly progress towards belligerent, 0.1. We see translated Bibles. Yeah, this just overwhelmingly looked like the strongest one we've seen. Max literacy 10%, is like, that's a lot. The base number of religious aspects that define a church is 3, although this is subject to review as usual, as it is. And it is possible to have an entirely different and unique aspect per religion, since it is a scriptable / moddable feature. Furthermore, religious aspects can have an impact on the religious relations of a country has with others who use religious aspects. Since the aspects are partially shared between the faiths, this could lead to unlikely friendships and hostilities. Frenemies, if you will. Friends to something. Okay, let's move on now to the next religion, Calvinism, which is quite similar in structure to Lutheranism. It also spawns during the Reformation situation. It also has Calvinist preachers that spread. I think we converted to Calvinism in the Milan game, and it also uses religious aspects and actions. We see Calvinist preachers. We see that this is a building type, and it gives monthly religious conversion, which is nice to not just be stuck with a bunch of Catholics when you've converted. We see Calvinism gives clergy estate satisfaction equilibrium plus 10%. We like that. Monthly religious influence plus 0.1. Retreat delay plus 10. Discipline plus 5%. Nice. Artist monthly start chance minus 10%. Everything is preordained, as is tradition. So you get just, I believe this locks in your die rolls for battle, but you can't retreat for an extended period of time, but you will roll the same dice every single time, as was determined by God. We see we got primary religion, Calvinism, liturgical language, Latin. So that's answering a question that we kind of weren't able to answer a little bit before because we didn't get deep enough into this. Having Latin as your liturgical language really gives you a lot of research speed, so it is important. And finally, we have Anglicanism. The Protestant religion doesn't trigger through a situation, but as an event for England that can trigger after the Reformation is active. We see the act of supremacy, the unwillingness of heir, current wife name, to deliver a male heir remains a cause of great concern for character. Character is my personal favorite character. Who has grown weary and instead become infatuated with the tenacious Lady Anne Boleyn. Everyone knows that wife get name and character, these are like placeholders, but the one you fall for is always Anne Boleyn. Shout out to Anne Boleyn. In an attempt to secure her hand in marriage, he has dispatched an envoy to the Pope, requesting a dispensation to annul his current marriage, which was now immediately refused in accordance with canon law. The eager king is now considering a more drastic step to allow the marriage, including a complete break from papal authority. England's kind of far, geographically speaking, so... But yeah, Henry VIII, he did the things, of them including Anne Boleyn. And so if we decided to take command of the church, a new religion will be created. And so Lady Anne Boleyn is added as character. I wonder what her stat line is. Many Catholic... Do we have her? No, we don't have her stat line. Many Catholic pops are converted to Anglicanism. We convert to the Anglicanism religion. We lose 20 stab. 20 stab's not too bad. Stability notably gives pop promotion speed. So generally speaking, having a lot of stab can be quite nice. If the thing that is throttling your ability to economically expand, if it's qualifications or promotions, then stability becomes more important. I think that's the strongest thing that stability gives you. Her assertive and ambitious nature, as well as her involvement in court politics, antagonizes the lords. Well, that sounds like a them problem. 10% estate satisfaction. I don't think their satisfaction is really that good a modifier. I can't remember it off the top of my head, though. New heresy in Christianity has appeared. Anglicanism. We see monthly religious influence, 0.1. Buildings cost minus 5%. Nice. Max literacy, 5%. Nice. Quite strong. We like that. And then we have a bunch of actions here: dissolve monasteries, militarize religious icons, Reformation diplomacy, encourage innovativeness, progress supreme governor. I'm curious what encourage innovativeness does. And last but not least, certainly not, we have a couple of religions that are also share religious aspects. Imagine on a post saying last and least this religion, but are not necessarily tied to the Reformation situation. This includes Lollardy and Hussitism. We saw like this Hussite event that was super cool. That was like the war between like Bohemia and the Papal States, which were created together with their corresponding Reformer and earlier Catholic heresies of Bogomilism, Catharism, Polycianism, and Waldensian. I have not said these words before, as you can tell. Well, some of them maybe. The last feature, I've said those words before, we're going to take a look at is another situation, the War of Religions. This is the ending to all the narratives related to the Catholic Church and Protestant churches. I didn't get this deep in the long run. A fight for the religious supremacy over Europe centered over the Holy Roman Empire with the 30-year wars as inspiration. We see strife in the Holy Roman Empire. It's neither holy nor Roman nor an empire, but there is strife. The princes of the Holy Roman Empire have torn themselves apart in the chaotic situation in the wake of the Reformation. Their descent into confessions and religious factions have weakened the empire as a whole, except it's not an empire, and could open the window of opportunity for us or drag us into a conflict of scale beyond our imagination. Yeah, that was a real brother against brother type of moment. We'll keep a close eye on it. Indeed, we will. And then we get War of the Religions 1002.a. In the War of the Religions, it is possible to align with the interests of the Catholic powers of the Holy Roman Empire or the opposing Protestant powers. So we see a little bit of a flavor text. I think we've read this already after several decades of religious strife. That sounds strikingly familiar. Because war is hell. Okay. The conflict over the practice of Christian worship in the Holy Roman Empire has reached a point where armed conflict between the Protestant Union and Catholic faith seems impossible to avoid. While these organizations of imperial princes are mainly concerned with the protection of their respective faiths, I mean, like a lot of death, not like regarding protection, many European powers look at the empire in turmoil with greedy eyes. No matter if with religious fervor or worldly desire, the powers of Europe are preparing for an army for a fight as the peace of the empire hangs into delicate balance. Of course, each of these will give you tooltips. Very cool. Protestant Union. The Protestant Union is a defensive alliance of countries of the Reformation which want to protect themselves from the growing hostilities of the Catholic states of the Holy Roman Empire. You notice how they frame it as a defensive for them. Yeah. Well, I mean... I'm not going to say who's the offender and who's the defender. In the game, it's these guys are the defender. I don't know enough about the war. Although founded by the states of the Lutheran and Calvinist faiths, every member of the empire who feels threatened by overzealous counter-reformers may join the IO. We have the Catholic League. The Catholic League is a defensive alliance. Hey, they're both on defense. Oh, wait. No. It's... Okay, never mind. They're both international organizations that have defensive treaties but not offensive treaties, with a desire to contain the growing influence of the spread of Reformation within the Holy Roman Empire. Although inherently Catholic, Lutheran and Calvinist states can join too if they see a political advantage from working with the League. And this is the panel for the situation, which both sides, their relative strengths, and the possibility to join one side or the other, etc. We do see... It's just one on each side, of course, because it just popped, and not anything is happening. There's no war ongoing. In order to end the War of the Religions, either the Protestant Union or the Catholic League must claim hegemony in the HRE by enforcing religious supremacy through the Religious Superiority War. And I'm assuming this just throws both sides, even though it's a defensive alliance, against each other. The Peace of Westphalia is achieved instead when 80% of all participants desire peace. That might be a while. That's a yikes. We saw in one of our games the situation, while we didn't play in it, the situation for the 100-Year War lasted 150 years. An inconclusive result may lead to the negotiation of the Peace of Westphalia between the members of the League and will alter the religious laws of the HRE. And that's all for today. Next week, Jonathan will come back. Everyone remembers Jonathan has been in a trunk for 3 weeks now, and maybe he was in a trunk filming this propaganda video where he said he released or we announced Europa Universalis 5.
I'm Anderson. I'm the studio manager of Paradox Tinto and the creative lead for Project Caesar.
You hear that? It's called Project Caesar. We don't need to watch any more and hear any propaganda about it being Europa Universalis 5. It's Project Caesar. Okay. We have Tinto Talks number 62. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Happy Wednesday. Johan, I've been mispronouncing his name the entire time, I have since learned. He always, writes it right, which is that it, of course, is capitalized. Happy Wednesday. This is our second Happy Wednesday on a Tuesday. Today we will show off some things related to our very super secret game, Project Caesar. Now, if you know and have been following this is really Project Teaser, and if you have been following this since recently, it's been announced, but the announcement is hiding the fact that the game is named Project Teaser, or if you pronounce it correct, Project Tizar. Let's do a quick start as the Teutonic Order, as they are currently in a state of war, and I wanted to go a little bit through how battles work in detail. Background information about the country can be found in the last Tinto flavor about the orders at we're not going to read that, but it is going to be the Teutonic Order. Our tax base is low, even if we have a decently sized population. Well, that's okay, because trade's really strong, eh? But it's been nerfed. But how is the population, then? We have a lot of Prussians, and we have Poles, and we have other people that we are less familiar with. We see a lot of Catholics, but a lot of Remuva. That's kind of interesting. And then we see mostly peasants. And so this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Peasant satisfaction disproportionately affects location overall satisfaction because it's average. It should maybe be a weighted average where whatever weights are applied for distributing the wealth to the estates based on the pops before they get modified by percentage modifiers, perhaps that is same weight should be used for location satisfaction, which wouldn't give the peasants disproportionate, power or weight or this type of thing. While over 70% of Catholics, only 26% belong to the Prussian culture, so we cannot raise a large amount of levies. And considering I have 9 different provinces, provinces having many locations, it would take centuries to make them all Prussians. Yeah, only have 2 cabinet members. That's a lot of both converting cultures, and I think most of these will be integrated, but they won't be cores because the culture's wrong. However, I have other problems. Yeah, you're at war. I don't have great control over most of my country, and Masuria in the southeast is particularly low. Yikes, those are some zeros. We don't like that. Roads are too expensive during a war. Yep, but soon. Yeah, we wait until we get the road parliament, and we get all the prices low, and then we build the roads everywhere. So my early decision to try and promote Prussian culture in the capital and to increase control in Masuria. This makes... But isn't the capital already a core? Wouldn't you want to promote the culture in an uncored territory? Did he say the satisfaction was low because the wrong culture? Cannot raise a large amount of levies. Got it. So the idea is to increase levies and increase control in Masuria. That seems certainly strong. You could also go for the longer-term plan of integrating, changing the culture in Masuria, unless... I can't remember if you're locked in and you can only change one culture at a time. There's some cabinet actions you can only do once at a time, but I think Masuria is of the wrong culture, so it's not a core, it's just integrated, and if it were core, a core gives plus 20 base control, so longer term it might be better, but if you're looking for the quick control to quickly increase your levies, which you're at war, so this makes some sense, you get it quicker with just increased control, but longer term integrating might be stronger. But we see integrating control in Masuria, assimilating in Upper Prussia. It seems that all my leaders have a nice plate mail uniform. A big nice. It is big nice. So let's take a look at this war then. How should we handle it? We have about 100 regulars and about 3.8k levies, and while we have numerical superiority, Poland and their allies have a rather large army as well. Divide and conquer. I actually don't know the best way to win this war, even remotely. This is the war map mode, and you can see the allied armies in green, our armies in green, allied in blue, and what's not hidden by fog of war and the enemies in red. Fog of war is particularly nasty, especially because between provinces, when you are marching, you lose morale. So you have to be a little bit careful when trying to shuffle your armies around the map, that you don't just walk into a fogged province, with an army with low morale because it's been marching a while. That's definitely something to be concerned about. Ideally, as we have a nice amount of manpower from all the order commanderies in Europe, I'd like to raise some more regulars. Luckily, we earned some money from the trade in our cities, even though our tax base is weak. I give the order to recruit 2 more Crusader Knights at 100 men each in Marienburg. So, generally speaking, I wonder if it's 100 men. I think it is infantry. If you are, money rich, I think probably going for cavalry is better, and then if you are manpower rich, we don't see the manpower, but he said he had a lot. If you are manpower rich, I think generally speaking, infantry is going to be better. And while I gather levies and regulars outside Osterode, I noticed that the army of one of the Polish vassals, the county of Sire Daz, has moved across the border and started sieging a castle in Thorn. And so that is a potential for a nice juicy pick-off, especially if we don't know the terrain in Thorn. I believe you fight defensive battles if you're sieging and you kind of come out, and so this is maybe an opportunity here. While my morale is a bit low after marching across the lands, this is kind of what we were talking about. You lose morale over time. I've just appointed a new general with some great stats and decided to adjust my army to maximize my chances in battle. I put my 192 men, a strong noble level levy cavalry on the right flank, together with the 1,000 feudal levies. The center gets 2,000 feudal levies, but my left flank gets my 2 armored horsemen and the remaining 524 feudal levies. I didn't play around too much with shuffling my units around and reorganizing my units, so I can't really comment too much on what's optimal in this type of thing. I have high hopes that they will engage quickly and shatter the opposition flank. High initiative does allow you to engage better, so I think in theory you should have high initiative guys in every flank so that they could get in and start doing damage immediately. There are some tribesmen, footmen, and clergy levies in the reserves, but I don't expect to need much of them. My commander still needs... interesting. I wonder why he left these ones in particular in the reserves. Maybe he doesn't want clergymen dying. This is one of, like, kind of the more interesting points where, of granularity, where the levies are of different groups, or they come from different... you can raise levies from various estates. And if you do not want those particular estate pops to die, or you want those particular estate pops to die, you can put them and organize them in the army, accordingly, and they inform the estate power. And so maybe you want all the nobility to not have much estate power, so you put all the nobility in front, and you put everyone else in reserve, and then you go into battle, and then after all the people in the front die, you just retreat, and you're like, see ya. In the reserves, I don't expect we need them. My commander still needs 10 more days to give it an effective bonus to the army, which I really want, as his 84 diplomacy is another 16.8% morale. I wonder if it immediately increases your morale, or if morale's strong, but he's also low morale because of marching around, right? So I don't know if it immediately... I'm saying I don't know as in, like, I completely don't know. If if morale is, like, a percentage, works in a percentage way or, like, a cap way, and if it's in a percentage way, as soon as he's assigned, it just jumps by 16.8%, and the game logic is I have 50% morale, not 130 morale. It's just 50% morale. But this guy looks like a pretty good commander. 98. So it's quite nice. Grizzly bears, bears. Yes, the 15 tribesmen will be useful. They are in reserve. We do see infantry. I wonder which one of these guys is the clergy infantry. But relatively balanced flanks, we think. They have a slight edge in their morale, as their commander has an even higher diplomacy than ours. Their military tactics are 1.18 compared to our 1.09, due to a stronger noble estate and privilege granted in exchange for that. You know what? I was saying that we didn't like the noble estate bonus. Maybe we just, like, don't pay enough attention to military. That's entirely possible. If tactics is really strong, then maybe the estate's really strong. We do have the edge in discipline, though, at 13.1 versus 2.37, which we have to thank for Crusader discipline advance and the military orders estate privilege in the clergy. Generally speaking, I looked at a lot of the unique advances, and the only country that had more than 5% discipline that I saw of the countries I checked, although maybe there's a lot in the Teutonic Order, but was the Ottoman Empire, had 2 5% techs with their unique advances. But continuing on, we do see the battle is had, and no reserves here. White numbers at the top of the sections are currently engaged men, and while the gray at the bottom is men not yet fighting. So we see 132 have made it in, 50 have made it in with higher initiative, if I recall correctly, allowing you to get in faster. So the cavalry gets in faster. At the first hour, our plan to use cavalry on the flanks paid off, as they, with the slightly higher initiative, got lucky and engaged immediately. As there are no enemy engaged, they'll do morale damage to the entire opposite section. Very nice. A few hours later, we do see the morale's been brought down a little bit. We see there's only 19 engaged still. The rest is engaged here. Our 1,000 has come up and engaged. Green numbers on the brown at the top is work in progress. Green numbers on the brown at top. Oh, I think he's saying this. Not the color they've settled in on. Our left flank is not engaging fast enough. Yep, those 50 men need reinforcement, and they are getting destroyed by the enemy levies. And they are way too outnumbered to rout 1,000 levies. In the center, they have their mailed knights engaged, so this should now be interesting. And I think this, for us, is levies. Let's check the tooltip for our cavalry. 19 men remained, but they killed 42 enemies last hour while losing 12 of their own. We had hoped that the rest of the cavalry had engaged... at the same time. Was there 100 cav and the rest were... I think there might have been 100 cav and another 50 cav here, and the rest were levies, if I recall correctly. And so here we have the cavalry, spelled funny. It was funny to us, but not to someone who's from Poland, probably, or Germany. But let's take a look at the stat line real quick. Die roll 2. Okay, this is not the kind of normal UI here. Yeah, we need to show as multiplicative numbers, not as a plus percentage. Interesting, he's talking about this here. That seems fine to kind of do this. We see flanking ability, which is if they break the front or whatever, their ability to get in on the middle front or another front. I guess in theory that would make putting cavalry in the middle better. I don't know. I haven't thought through the tactics quite much. But okay, the mailed knights levies in the center shatter our feudal levies, womp womp, while our horsemen are destroyed. Luckily, they bought enough time for the rest of that flank to engage. And we have, if we take a closer look at the battle, 6 regiments fighting, 1 in reserve, and they have 4 regiments fighting. Interestingly, they didn't have as many reserves, but okay. You can also tooltip a battle widget on the map and see the morale and see how many are fighting. Quite a few hours later, fighting is still going on, and our most regiments have engaged, while some of our reservists have joined the weakened flanks. We also have better die rolls, so now it looks really good. Everyone's in, we have the 85 still back, our reserves are up, they've been distributed. I assume they distribute to the weakest flanks, and so this provides better coverage but slower engagement is the idea behind this, and quite a numerical advantage, but numbers, it's important to recognize levies are really weak, and so regulars are important. The battle is now won, and it's just a matter of time until the enemy forces collapse and flee. Next week, Pavia will be back, and next week being tomorrow, talking about some more religions, Hinduism, Jainism, and Sikhism. Tomorrow, though, is the big day where we had the announcement.
We've been teasing you guys about this project for over a year now.
Yes, you have.
And now it's finally time to reveal what this is all about.
With each stroke of the brush,
just checking where exactly we're going to see.
Unfolds.
Let's watch it.
And with every gesture, a path is carved through history. Ambition, once ignited, pushes forward and can never be tamed. With every line, a new horizon. Drawn from the wells of ancient civilizations, the landscape changes, but the drive remains. Painting with the sharp reds of revolution and the black ash of scorched battlefields. Legacy is forged of the chosen, tracing the silhouettes of warriors. With the final stroke, like fire across the landscape. Never before has the canvas stretched so far. Europa Universalis 5. Be ambitious.
A likely story, huh? I think it's gonna be Project Tysar. But that's all we have for today. We'll probably be back tomorrow doing the next Tinto Talks. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You know, do the YouTube algorithm thing. And other than that, have a double happy Wednesday on a Tuesday.